When my daughter told me she was selling my mother's house out from under me, I collapsed right there in our kitchen. Days later, I was investigating her fiancé's criminal past with a private detective. That's when I realized family bonds are just like wedding vows, only as strong as the people making them. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me if you've ever been betrayed by someone you love. Because this story is about to twist harder than my stomach did when I found that letter. My life with Emily used to be simple. Every morning started the same way, coffee together at our worn kitchen table, the sunshine streaming through the curtains my mother had sewn decades ago. We'd laugh, plan our days, and just enjoy being mother and daughter. After losing my husband Tom to a sudden heart attack 3 years ago, those morning rituals became sacred to me. Emily was all I had left, and I thought I was all she had too. Mom, did you see my blue earrings? The ones Grandma gave me? Emily called from upstairs that Wednesday morning. Just another normal day. Check your jewelry box, honey. Top drawer, I answered, flipping through our mail. Bills, advertisements, and then a thick cream-colored envelope addressed to Emily from Westfield and Partners, attorneys at law. I shouldn't have opened it.
I know that now.
But something in my gut twisted when I saw that official letterhead. Maybe some mothers have a sixth sense when danger approaches their children. The letter congratulated Emily on finalizing the paperwork to sell 1432 Maple Street, my mother's address. My house. Our home. The property would transfer to Lakeside Development Corporation in 30 days, pending final signatures. My fingers went numb. The room started spinning. This house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was where I was born, where I raised my daughter, where 3 generations of women in my family had lived and loved. The one thing I thought was secure in this world. Mom, did you hear me? Emily's voice grew closer as she descended the stairs. I need those earrings for lunch with Brad today. I looked up at my daughter, my beautiful, traitorous daughter, clutching that damning letter, and everything between us shattered like glass. Script part separator equals. What are you holding? Emily stopped at the bottom of the stairs, her face draining of color. This letter, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the hurricane inside me. The one about you selling my home to Lakeside Development. She rushed forward. Mom, that was private. You had no right. No right? I stood up so fast the chair crashed to the floor. No right? This is my home. How dare you? Mom, please, let me explain. I don't want explanations. I want to know why. Why would you do this to me? Behind my back? After everything we've been through? The tears came then, hot and angry, streaming down my face as I clutched the countertop to keep from collapsing. Emily started crying too. It's not what you think. Brad says we need the money to start our life together. The house is too big for just you anyway, and Brad says? I slammed my palm on the counter. So your fiancé of 8 months gets more say in my future than I do? He has our best interests at heart, Mom. He's got this investment opportunity that... I cut her off with a bitter laugh. An investment opportunity. Of course. And where exactly am I supposed to live? We've found you a nice senior apartment complex. It's got activities and... A senior complex? I'm 54 years old, Emily. I'm not some decrepit old woman you can shuffle off to a retirement home. Her face hardened. The house is partly in my name too, Mom. Dad made sure of that in his will. Legally, I can do this. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Tom had put the house in both our names to protect Emily, never imagining she'd use it against me. Get out, I whispered. Mom, get out. I screamed, my voice raw with betrayal. Go to Brad. Go plan your perfect wedding. But don't expect me to be there. She grabbed her purse, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand. This is for all of us. You'll see. The door slammed behind her. I sank to the kitchen floor, surrounded by the memories my daughter was so eager to sell to strangers. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced the hallways of my mother's house, my house, touching the walls, the door frames, the banister my father had carved by hand. How could Emily do this? What kind of man was she marrying who would convince her to betray her own mother? Script part separator equals. By morning, determination had replaced my tears. I wasn't going down without a fight. I called my best friend, Martha, who'd been a paralegal for 30 years. Janice, honey, this is serious, she said after I explained everything. But there might be a loophole. If you can prove undue influence. Undue influence? If Brad pressured Emily into this decision. If he's manipulating her. You need evidence. How do I get that? You start digging. And fast. When's the wedding? 3 weeks from Saturday. Martha whistled. Then you've got a deadline. Once they're married, her assets become even more complicated. After hanging up, I found myself staring at the framed photo of Emily's graduation. My sweet, responsible daughter would never do this on her own. Something about Brad didn't add up. I knew embarrassingly little about the man my daughter planned to marry. Brad Williams had swept into Emily's life 6 months ago at a charity event. Handsome, charming, and supposedly successful in real estate development. He'd proposed after just 3 months. Too fast. Much too fast. I opened my laptop and searched his name. Pages of results, but nothing substantial. No company website, just mentions in local business articles. For someone supposedly successful, his digital footprint was suspiciously light. On impulse, I drove to Emily's workplace. Her assistant Janet had always liked me. Mrs. Bennett. What a surprise. Janet greeted me warmly. I need a favor, Janet. It's about Brad. Her smile faltered. Emily's fiancé? Yes. Has Emily seemed different since meeting him? Janet glanced around and lowered her voice. Between us? Yes. She canceled 2 major presentations last month because Brad needed her. And she's been taking these private calls that leave her upset. I heard her say once, that wasn't the deal, Brad. My blood ran cold. Deal? I shouldn't say more, Janet whispered, but check out Lakeside Development. Brad's not just working with them, from what I overheard. He's founding partner. The same company buying my house. This wasn't coincidence. Janet, do you know anyone who's worked with Brad before? Any projects? Partners? She hesitated, then scribbled a name on a sticky note. Michael Husso. He was at that charity event where Emily met Brad. They seemed to know each other, but not in a friendly way. Script part separator equals. I found Michael Russo's business card online. He owned a small construction company across town. Without allowing myself to reconsider, I drove straight there. The receptionist eyed me suspiciously when I asked for Michael, but must have seen the desperation in my eyes. 5 minutes later, a stocky man with salt and pepper hair appeared. Mrs. Bennett? What can I do for you? It's about Brad Williams, I said. My daughter is engaged to him, and I think she's in trouble. His face darkened. Let's talk in my office. Once the door closed, Michael's professional demeanor vanished. Your daughter's marrying Brad Williams? The same guy who ran Sunset Properties? Yes, I think so. He's in real estate development. Michael laughed bitterly. That's one way to put it. Another way is that he's a con man who bankrupted my brother-in-law. What? I felt the floor shift beneath me. 2 years ago, Brad convinced my brother-in-law to invest everything in a condo development. The permits were all lined up, the land secured, except none of it was true. Brad took the money and disappeared. By the time the fraud was discovered, he'd changed his name and moved on. But surely he was arrested? Never enough evidence. Brad's smart. He uses other people to do his dirty work. My brother-in-law wasn't the only victim, but nobody could prove Brad was behind it all. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then looked back at me with newfound urgency. Mrs. Bennett, there's something else. That charity event where your daughter met Brad? It wasn't coincidence. Brad researches his marks carefully. He probably knew about your family home, your husband's death, everything. I felt sick. And now Emily's selling our house to Brad's company. Michael's eyes widened. When? 30 days from now. And they're getting married in 3 weeks. Then you need to move fast. And be careful. Brad's not just a con man, he's dangerous when cornered. As I drove home, my mind raced. My daughter wasn't just being manipulated, she was being used as a pawn in Brad's scheme. But how could I make her see the truth? Script part separator equals. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. The irony wasn't lost on me, spending my retirement savings to investigate the man who was trying to steal my house. I need everything you can find on Brad Williams in 3 days, I told Vince Moretti, an ex-cop Martha recommended. 3 days? That's pushing it, Mrs. Bennett. My daughter marries him in 20 days. I'm already running out of time. While waiting for Vince's findings, I did something even harder. I called Emily. Mom? Her voice was cautious. I didn't expect to hear from you. We need to talk. Not about the house, I lied. About the wedding. I'm still your mother. She hesitated. Brad's taking me to look at venues today. Dinner tomorrow then? Just us? Okay. I'd like that. I spent that night scouring the house for any legal documents, anything that might help. In Tom's old office, I found our original deed with a strange notation I'd never noticed, something about conservation easements that restricted development. It might be nothing, but I made copies anyway. The next day, Vince called. Mrs. Bennett, we need to meet. Now. At the coffee shop, he slid a folder across the table. Brad Williams is actually Robert Bradley Williams. He's been involved in at least 3 property schemes in different states. Changes his name slightly each time. And this is interesting, Lakeside Development was formed just 4 months ago. Right after he met Emily, I whispered. There's more. He's currently married. To a woman in Arizona. The room spun. Married? But how? Never divorced his second wife. Which means his marriage to Emily would be illegal. My mind raced. Does he know you're investigating him? I've been careful, but these guys usually have lookouts. Watch your back. I left shaking, clutching the folder of evidence. When I got home, my front door was slightly ajar. Someone had been inside. My heart pounding, I called the police, then Martha. While waiting, I checked the house. Nothing obvious was missing, but my desk had been searched, papers rearranged. The police took a report but weren't hopeful. Probably just kids, the officer said dismissively. I knew better. Brad was on to me. That night, Emily texted. Can't make dinner. Wedding's emergency. Brad's handling it. I bet he was. The next morning, my bank called. Someone had attempted to access my accounts with my social security number. The walls were closing in. Brad wasn't just after my house, he wanted everything. I needed to move up my timeline. Emily would never believe me without proof, and a confrontation would just push her further into Brad's arms. I needed a plan that would expose him publicly, decisively, in a way she couldn't deny. And suddenly I knew exactly what to do. Script part separator equals. Calling Martha, I laid out my plan. You want to do what? She gasped. I want to catch him at his own wedding, I repeated firmly. With evidence nobody can deny. Janice, this is crazy. What if he retaliates? He's already trying to steal my house and empty my bank accounts. What else can he do? Martha sighed. A lot, actually. But I know that tone. You're doing this with or without me. Damn right I am. My daughter deserves to know the truth before she legally ties herself to this monster. I spent the next 3 days gathering allies. Michael Russo agreed to help immediately. I've been waiting 2 years to see Brad Williams get what's coming to him. Even Janet, Emily's assistant, joined my cause after I showed her Vince's evidence. Emily's been like a zombie lately. Yesterday, she was crying in the bathroom. This isn't the marriage she deserves. Meanwhile, Emily kept avoiding me. Her texts were short, distracted. Super busy with wedding stuff. Brad's handling everything. I bet he was. On day 4, Vince delivered the bombshell. Brad Williams has done this before, twice. Marries women with family money or property, empties them out, then disappears. His real name is Robert William Bradley. He's got a record in Nevada for fraud, but he plea bargained down to probation. And his current wife? Melanie Carson Williams. Lives in Phoenix. They married 3 years ago. She's in assisted living now, early onset dementia. Convenient for him. I felt sick. So he targets vulnerable women? And their families. Your daughter isn't his main target, Mrs. Bennet. You are. That night, someone slashed my tires. The message was clear: back off. But Brad had miscalculated. I wasn't some fragile widow anymore. I was a mother fighting for her daughter's future. And I was just getting started. Script part separator . The next morning, I called Emily's phone repeatedly until she finally answered. Mom, I'm busy we need to talk. Today. It's an emergency, I said, injecting urgency into my voice. Is it about the house? Because Brad says. It's about your safety, Emily. Please. 2 hours later, we sat in a neutral location, a busy cafe where Brad's associates couldn't eavesdrop. Emily looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. You have 15 minutes, she said coldly. Brad's waiting for me at the caterer's. I slid a single photo across the table. Brad with his arm around another woman. The timestamp showed it was taken just last month. Who is she? Emily asked, her voice wavering. His wife. His legal wife, Emily. Her face drained of color. That's ridiculous. This is some photoshopped. Her name is Melanie Carson Williams. They married 3 years ago in Phoenix. She's in assisted living now with early onset dementia. Emily's hands trembled as she pushed the photo back. You're making this up because you don't want to lose the house. Emily, the house is just property. You're my daughter. I'd give up 100 houses to keep you safe. Brad loves me. He wouldn't. He's done this before. Twice. Marries women for their money or property, then disappears. His real name isn't even Brad Williams. Her eyes flashed with anger. Stop it. Just stop. You've always been controlling, Mom. You couldn't stand that Dad put the house in my name too. This is about control. This is about protecting you. From what? A successful man who actually sees my potential? Who believes in me? Who's helping me build a future? By stealing your mother's home? Emily stood up, gathering her purse. The house sale is happening. The wedding is happening. You can either support me or stay away. As she stormed out, I noticed something I hadn't before, a faint bruise peeking out from her sleeve. My blood ran cold. The stakes had just gotten much higher. Script part separator . I drove straight to Vince's office, desperate and frantic. She wouldn't listen, I explained, pacing his cluttered office. And worse, I saw bruises on her arm. Vince's expression darkened. That changes things. We need to move faster. I've got 19 days until the wedding. What more can we do? We need Brad's wife to come forward, Vince said. If Emily won't believe documents, she'll have to believe the actual woman. The next morning, I was on a flight to Phoenix. Vince had arranged for me to meet Melanie's sister, Karen, who'd been suspicious of Brad from the beginning. I knew something was wrong when Melanie's accounts started emptying right after her diagnosis, Karen told me in her living room. Brad disappeared a month later, claiming a family emergency. He still calls occasionally, supposedly checking on her, but really making sure she hasn't recovered her memory. Will you help me stop him from doing this to another family? Karen's eyes hardened. What do you need? Within hours, we had notarized statements, photographs, even video of Brad and Melanie's wedding. Karen also connected me with Brad's first victim in Nevada, a woman named Stephanie, whose family lost their restaurant to Brad's schemes. He doesn't just take your money, Stephanie warned me on the phone. He destroys your sense of security, your trust. Your daughter will need serious help after this. Flying home, I had evidence from 3 states, but I knew Emily would still resist. Brad had methodically isolated her from me, from her friends, planting seeds of doubt about everyone except himself. I needed more, something local, undeniable. Something that would expose him publicly with maximum impact. That's when I remembered the notation on our deed. What if Brad's development plans violated existing legal restrictions on the property? Script part separator . Back home, I headed straight to the county records office, deed in hand. I need everything you have on conservation easements for 1432 Maple Street, I told the clerk. 2 hours later, I had my answer, and it was explosive. 20 years ago, My parents had placed a conservation easement on the back 5 acres of our property. No development could ever occur there. The land had to remain natural habitat in perpetuity. The plans I'd glimpsed in Brad's proposal to lakeside development showed luxury condos covering the entire property. His entire scheme violated federal conservation laws. I called Martha immediately. "I've got him," I whispered. "The development he's planning is illegal." "That's huge, Janice. But will it be enough to convince Emily?" "No," I admitted. "Not on its own. She'd just believe whatever excuse Brad feeds her." But combined with everything else, my phone beeped with an incoming call. "Emily." "Mom?" Her voice sounded strained. "Brad wants to move up the wedding. Next weekend instead of 3 weeks from now." My heart stopped. "Why the rush?" "He says his mother is sick and might not make it to the original date." Emily hesitated. "Mom, I need you there. Please." The vulnerability in her voice broke my heart. She was still my little girl, lost and confused. "Of course I'll be there," I promised, mentally recalculating my timeline. I now had 9 days, not 19. After hanging up, I called Vince. "Brad's rushing the wedding. We need to accelerate everything." "That's not good," Vince said grimly. "Men like him move timelines when they feel threatened. He knows someone's onto him." That night, I couldn't sleep. What if my investigation had put Emily in more danger? What if Brad hurt her when he felt cornered? I was sitting in my kitchen at 3 a.m. when headlights swept across my windows. A car was parking outside my house. Heart pounding, I peered through the curtains. Emily was walking up my driveway, alone, crying. I flung open the door. "Honey, what happened?" Script part separator ===. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. We sat on the porch swing, my arm around her shoulders like when she was little. "Mom, I'm so confused," she finally whispered. "Brad's changed. He's obsessed with finalizing this house sale before the wedding. When I suggested waiting until after our honeymoon, he got so angry." "Did he hurt you?" I asked gently, gesturing to her arm. Emily pulled her sleeve down. "It was an accident. He grabbed me during an argument." "But Mom, something feels wrong. The paperwork he wants me to sign, it puts everything in Lakeside's name, nothing in mine." When I questioned it, he said it was standard procedure. My heart soared with cautious hope. The fog was finally lifting. "Emily, I need to show you something. But you have to promise to look at it with an open mind." Inside, I laid out everything, the evidence of Brad's previous marriages, the conservation easement, the reports from Vince. Emily's face grew paler with each document. "This can't be real," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "There's more," I said gently. "He's planning to develop the protected land behind our house. That's a federal offense." Emily stared at the maps, recognition dawning. "But he promised we'd build our dream home there." "That was never his plan, honey. You were just his way into the property." Tears streamed down her face. "I've been such a fool." "No," I pulled her close. "You've been manipulated by someone who's had lots of practice. The question is, what do we do now?" Emily straightened, a flash of her father's determination crossing her face. "We take him down. At his own game. Script part separator ===. For the next hour, Emily and I crafted a plan. Instead of confronting Brad immediately, she would pretend everything was normal while we gathered our final pieces of evidence. "Are you sure you can face him?" I asked, worried about her safety. Emily's jaw tightened. "He made me betray my own mother. He used me. I can handle a few more days." The next morning, she returned to their apartment with a believable story about needing space to think about wedding details. I called Martha and Michael Russo to update them on our accelerated timeline. "We need to be ready by Saturday," I explained. "The wedding's been moved up." "That's only 5 days away," Martha cautioned. 5 days to save my daughter's life." Vince brought more bombshells that afternoon. Brad had taken out a massive life insurance policy on Emily 3 weeks earlier. And Lakeside Development wasn't just planning condos. They were already pre-selling units on land they didn't yet own. "He's committing fraud on multiple levels," Vince explained. "And the wedding rush makes sense now. Once he's married, He gets spousal privileges if criminally charged. And if something happened to Emily after they married, I couldn't finish the thought. He'd get everything, Vince confirmed grimly. That night, Emily called in tears. Mom, I found something in his office. There are blueprints for the development, but they're dated 3 months before we even met. He targeted me specifically. Can you get copies without him knowing? Already did. And Mom? There's a life insurance policy. I know, honey.
Just stay calm.
Act normal. We're almost there. The wedding venue was confirmed. The grand ballroom at the Westlake Hotel. 200 guests, lavish decorations, and a 5-tier cake. Brad spared no expense using Emily's money. Little did he know it would be the perfect stage for his downfall. Script part separator ===. 2 days before the wedding, everything was in place. Vince had coordinated with local police. Brad's current wife, Melanie, accompanied by her sister Karen, was flown in secretly. The conservation officials were briefed. Even Stephanie from Nevada had arrived, ready to confront the man who destroyed her family. Emily continued her Oscar-worthy performance, keeping Brad distracted with wedding details while feeding us information. He's getting nervous, she texted. Keeps making calls when he thinks I'm not listening. The rehearsal dinner was the night before the wedding. I sat through it with a plastered smile, watching Brad charm everyone. When he stood to make a toast, looking directly at me with triumph in his eyes, I almost broke character. To family, he said, raising his glass. Especially to Janice, who's been so accommodating. The double meaning wasn't lost on me. He thought he'd won. That night, Emily stayed at a hotel with her bridesmaids, as tradition dictated. I couldn't sleep, knowing tomorrow would change everything. The wedding day arrived bright and clear. The grand ballroom was transformed into a floral paradise. 200 guests mingled, unaware they were about to witness not a marriage, but an exposure. I sat in the front row, dressed impeccably, my folder of evidence tucked discreetly in my purse. Emily had insisted on keeping the father-daughter dance, even though Tom was gone. I'll dance alone for a moment, then ask you to join me, she'd explained. But we had planned something very different for that special moment. Script part separator ===. The ceremony began exactly at 3 p.m. Brad stood at the altar, handsome and confident in his designer tuxedo. The music swelled as Emily appeared at the back of the room, a vision in white. My heart ached seeing her. She looked so beautiful, yet her eyes held the weight of terrible knowledge. As she walked down the aisle, our eyes met briefly. The slight nod she gave me was imperceptible to everyone else. The minister began the traditional service. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I clutched my purse tighter as he reached the critical moment. If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The silence hung heavy for 3 seconds. Then I stood. I have cause, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Brad's face contorted with rage before he quickly composed himself. Mrs. Bennet, the minister said awkwardly, this is highly irregular. So is committing bigamy, I replied, stepping into the aisle. Brad Williams, or should I say Robert William Bradley, is already married. Brad laughed nervously. Janice is upset about some property issues. This is ridiculous. That's when the back doors opened. Karen walked in, supporting Melanie, who moved slowly with her walker. Hello, Robert, Melanie said, her voice frail but clear. Surprised to see your wife. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The color drained from Brad's face. This woman is confused. I've never seen her before. That's when Emily stepped forward, moving away from Brad to stand beside me. I believe the license from Arizona says differently, she announced, her voice strong. Along with the marriage certificate from Clark County, Nevada. 2 police officers appeared at the side doors. Detective Rodriguez nodded at me as planned. Brad lunged toward the nearest exit, but Michael Russo and 2 construction workers blocked his path. Going somewhere, Williams? Or is it Bradley this week? Michael asked. Brad spun around, looking for escape, but found only closing circles of witnesses and law enforcement. "This is all a misunderstanding," he shouted desperately. "Emily, tell them." Emily's voice rang clear through the stunned room. "Tell them what, Brad? About the illegal development plans? The life insurance policy? How you plan to steal my mother's house? Or should I tell them about these?" She pulled up her sleeve, revealing the bruises. "Robert William Bradley," Detective Rodriguez announced formally, "you're under arrest for fraud, assault, and bigamy." As they led Brad away in handcuffs, he looked back at me with pure hatred. "You'll regret this," he hissed. The doors closed behind him, leaving stunned silence. Emily turned to the bewildered guests. "I'm so sorry you all had to witness this. There won't be a wedding today, but there will be justice." 6 months later, I sat with Emily on our porch swing, watching the sunset over the protected woodland behind our house. Brad was serving 15 years for multiple counts of fraud, bigamy, and assault. Lakeside Development had collapsed, its executives facing their own legal troubles. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. "You know what's ironic, Mom? I wanted to sell this house because Brad convinced me you'd be happier somewhere smaller. He made betrayal sound like love." I put my arm around her. "The greatest tricks always do, honey." As darkness fell over our family home, still ours, still safe, I reflected on how close we'd come to losing everything. But I'd learned something powerful through this ordeal. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And when they try to take what's yours, turn the tables and take back your power instead. That's a lesson worth passing down through generations. In this house that will always be our home.